Hi, I'm Dana, and if Otis ever decides what he's doing, I intend to be back at you with actual real content today. Are you staying? Are you going? What do you want? So one of the things that I've talked about quite a lot on this channel, and one of the things that I really delved into the most when I was first diagnosed, is unmasking and unmasking my autistic traits and trying to figure out who I am as a person, as an autistic person, knowing who I am, all that kind of thing. And I would really like to see more discussion about how unmasking isn't always the most positive thing in the world, because I feel like I went into it having only seen really positive things and only seeing people say like really good things about unmasking and how much better they feel and how much better it's done them in life and everything, and fabulous for those people. But I've definitely come across some negatives in my journey of unmasking, and it's massively something I still really struggle with. So I wanted that to be today's video, and as much as it is something I struggle with, I don't want it to be super heavy and horrible. And I also need to do disclaimers again. I forgot about them for a little while, and now I keep getting comments from people being like, well, I'm autistic, and it's a big shocker, I know, but all autistic people are different and we all do different things. This is just me and my experience and how I feel about things. You can feel differently, you can behave differently. We can be autistic and not be the exact same person, it's fine. So with that being said, I want to get into the actual points of the video now, because the first big thing for me is the skill regression. I saw a lot of talk about skill regression unrelated to masking, and it was something that I'd already experienced at various points, because I'd been just the expectations that my parents put on me growing up and the things that I had to do, I didn't have any choice about, and just living in that sort of survival instinct of I have to do these things, I don't have any other choice, everyone else can do them, I have no choice, I have to do them. So even just finding out I'm autistic and being like, oh, I know why XYZ is more difficult for me now, I already experienced a level of skill regression there, because I was like, of course everyone else can do it, they've got half the amount of issues going into it, they've got half the amount of struggle, of course everyone else can do it easily and I can't. But specifically when it comes to masking, I've had the skill regression and the loss of the skill of being able to mask, and that's really frustrating and quite horrible and scary, to be honest with you, because I spent my entire life crafting these little personalities to put on that got me through situations. If I had to go to the job centre, when I had to go and do my food shop, when I had to go and do whatever appointment, see a doctor, make a phone call, whatever I had to do, I had my little mask and little personality that I put on to do it with, and that made it so much easier. And there's a point to which I can still fake it till you make it, just do your best, just go into it and do what you can. But I can't put on the other personalities in the way that I used to, and it is probably for the better, to be fair, because I had so many situations with friends and relationships where I just dissociated completely and my little other personality got put on, and I just masked my way through things and did things I didn't necessarily want to do, said things I didn't really mean, it wasn't me, it was a full different personality that I was masking with. I was just masking and fawning and going along with the flow of things, and it's one of those things where I can't do it anymore. I've always had some situations where the mask would slip or the mask would drop, or I wouldn't have the right mask for the situation, I'd just panic and I'd have some sort of meltdown and I'd just leave the situation. But increasingly I've had to have less of those situations and craft my life to have less of those situations in them, because I just can't handle them in the way that I used to. And the more that they come up, the more often I find myself just leaving. I'm just out, I'm just gone, I'm just leaving. I don't know what personality I'm supposed to put on, and even if I do know, I can't do it, I can't make it exist, I can't put it to the forefront, it's not there anymore. And I do think that's sort of the main point of this video, and the main issue that I have there is that the process of unmasking, finding my true self and whatever cheesy bollocks you want to put in there, what that's mostly done is mean that I can't mask anymore. I can't just put on the phone call personality to make this phone call. I start doing the phone call and I'm trying so hard to bring it out and put it on, and then they answer and I just can't do it. I just hang up and I can't do it. And it's one of those things where it was always really fucking hard. I was always gonna cry before and after and have a meltdown and feel really awful and have it be a whole thing, but I could do it, And there is some level of, if you're having meltdowns and crying and sobbing before and after, you realistically can't do it. But I could get the thing I needed to be done, no matter how hard it was, no matter how much I struggled with it, I could physically do the thing. I can't anymore, and it's really scary and horrible and weird, and it's hard to explain to people, like, yeah, I know I could do that 5 years ago, I just physically can't now. I also just never felt like someone that could mask particularly well for like social situations in the first place. You know, I could put on a little mask for like my doctor's appointment and this phone call. I've never been someone that's been able to like make friends easily and just like talk to people, talk to strangers, have a conversation. I've never had like the masks for that, really. That's a lie. I'm really good at talking to middle-aged men. I can do like the northern middle-aged banter and shit. Trying to make friends with someone my age that I can actually build a friendship with feels 99% impossible most of the time. Like, it happens every now and again, but it is predominantly with other neurodivergent people. But in like trying to set up those social masks, because like everyone has masks for things to a certain point, you know, like literally everyone. It's just when it gets to the point where it's like, this is detrimental, I'm not behaving like myself, I don't know how I behave as myself, I don't know how I'm meant to act as a person, all of that. You know, like everybody puts on a mask for a job interview, for a first date, whatever. And it does sort of feel like I can only put on like a neurotypical mask, like level of masking now. Like, I can make myself seem a little bit more polished than I necessarily am, a little bit more friendly than I really am, but I can't do a different person anymore. And realistically, as an autistic person, in a lot of situations, that's what I need to be able to do. I need to be able to mask the autistic traits. I need to be able to come across as a neurotypical, and I can't anymore. And I never did a great freaking job of it anyway. I never did well at it. But I got by for a really long time, and I know how I did it. I know what I was doing to get by and to deal with things, and I just can't do it anymore. Like, it's just not there. And then that leads us into the thing of, if I'm not masking and I'm not forcing myself to like put myself out there, be outgoing, be a person, talk to people, then I'm just not part of any group. I'm just a total wallflower, you know? Like, when I go to parties, when I try to make friends, when I go out to like clubs and whatever, I just don't integrate into the group whatsoever, and I'm just completely on the sidelines. I'm like, sure, it's great that I'm not masking and doing something that I didn't want to do, but I'm not doing anything, I'm not having any fun, I'm not having a good time. But if I'm not masking and I put myself out there and force myself to be outgoing and go and speak to people and like be a person, I just cringe at myself. I find myself so embarrassing because I can tell that I'm missing social cues and I'm being weird and I'm being too much, and no, like, I can tell that people are perceiving me in a certain way, and people, like, there's that face that they do, you know, when they're like, well, you're not being mean and you're not like super annoying, so I'm gonna like put up with this, but I am just putting up with it, you know, the face, you know. And it's like, I'm still not having fun, I'm still not having a good time, and now I'm just cringing at myself and feeling like I'm the most embarrassing, awful, like, not even like awful in like I'm a bad person way, but just in a like, nobody wants you around. You're not adding anything to this interaction. You're not doing a good social. You're not socialising well, you know? Like, I'm not going to gain anything from this social interaction outside of cringing at myself and having it be one of the embarrassing thoughts that plays in my head before I go to sleep. And it's also one of those things where I then wonder if other people are having to make the choice of like, I'm going out tonight, am I going to be an extrovert or an introvert? Am I going to speak to people or not speak to people? Like, and it's the type of thing as well, I've had so many comments from people saying that I overthink it too much, and yeah, probably do. But I am also someone who, like, I feel like I do quite well at being like, I've done my social scripting, I've got all these scenarios in my head. That's just part of me being anxious, part of me being autistic, that's how it goes. Once I am out and in these situations, I don't have any social imagination. I don't know how it's going to go. I am having to just react as things are happening to me. Making those like split second, like quick decisions on how I'm going to respond to people, how I'm going to act, how I'm going to do this and that. Like, it's so overwhelming, and it's so much happening in my head all the time while there's also so much happening outside of me. And like, I won't lie, it was a lot easier to be social and have these social situations when I just sort of like zoned out and it happened to me and I reacted. Like, I so often imagine it as like, do you remember the Doctor Who episode Let's Kill Hitler, when there's the little people like controlling the big people, the normal sized people, there's like little people sat in like a control room in the brain, like Inside Out style. Like, I literally, when I mask, when I've been in situations where I'm like heavily masking, social situations, that's how I feel. That's how I literally feel like I'm like sat inside my head and my body is reacting and doing the things and my mouth is saying the things, and like there is no process happening in here, there is nothing going on. It's purely like survival instinct masking, and I haven't had that in a really long time, and it's not a healthy, nice thing to be going through and dealing with, but also it did make it like just so much easier to get through situations and to do things, you know? And my final little thing here is a bit of a weird one to have to explain. How am I doing this? Okay, words. So, like, in high school, I had a few different groups of people I hung out with, and I don't think any of them really considered me, like, a friend, but I, like, you know, I knew a few people out of each group, and when one group got sick of me, I'd go to the next one, and I very much had, like, a different little personality for each of those groups, and it was always the groups of, like, outsiders, you know? It was like, these are the kids that are really into anime, these are the kids that are really into YouTube. Like, it was always the other kids that didn't fit in. And then I'd go to those groups and I had lots of fun with them, don't get me wrong. There were lots of people in the groups that I really liked and that I really appreciated having around me, whether we were friends or not. But it was looking at the other people and being like, y'all don't fit in, and I don't really fit in with you guys either, you know? And I feel like I've just experienced that a lot, like throughout various points of my life where like I find the other people that don't fit in, and they're very welcoming, they're lovely people, you know, like they are nice to me, I do like them, but I also just don't really fit in there either, and I don't know where I'm supposed to fit in, and you know, maybe I don't fit in anywhere, but it'd be really nice to feel like I do fit in and belong somewhere. And like, at least with masking, when it was a case of like, I found the other gay kids and I'm also a gay kid, so we have this thing in common, and I could mask just a little bit and be able to fit in and be a part of it, you know? And I'll give that, like, I think they were all probably doing the exact same thing a lot of the time, but it felt like I was more of a part of things when I was able to mask. And as much as I say that, at the time I remember like constantly going home and having to cry in my bedroom because I was like, I can't fit in anywhere and I always have to pretend. And it's like, sure, we're not pretending anymore, but we're still not fitting in anywhere and feeling like we belong somewhere. And like, I try not to get super like negative about it. I do think that I will find a place, you know, like I do have a few close friends that make me feel like I'm a person. Like, it's not the end of the world, but it does kind of suck a little bit, and it would be really nice to find that place and find those people. Because like, even with like, I haven't been to church in a good little while because there was like a break over the summer, but even with that, like, they're not necessarily like the people that don't fit in, don't get me wrong, but you know, like, they're a very like nice, welcoming group of people that I really like, and I'm still like so nervous when I'm there and so anxious and put myself on the sidelines and feel so awkward when I'm interacting with people. And it is me, like, I don't think it's like, it's one of those where I'm always like, I don't think it's them, but like I'm fairly fucking certain that it's not them that are being awkward or being this or being that. And like I said, that it's a very welcoming group of people. I could just go and be welcomed and have a nice time, and I do have a nice time, and that's why I keep going, but it just never quite feels like I can settle anywhere. I don't know, that one might not be entirely masking, that might be a whole like trauma, bullying, growing up thing, I don't know entirely, but it does feel like I could at least have like a semblance of it when I was able to mask more, and I don't get that anymore. But yeah, that was my last little point, that was the last thing I had to say. This has been a bit more miserable than I expected it to be, I won't lie, but I feel like so much of the autistic community sees unmasking as like the greatest thing we can possibly do, and I do think that it has been extremely beneficial for like my mental health and my acceptance of myself as a person and stuff, but I do think there's also like negative sides to it that we should discuss, and the more that things are discussed and talked about and thought about, the more we're going to find solutions to them and stuff. So yeah, as always, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say. That's the whole point. I would like this to be a bit of a discussion. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments below. If you would like to like this video, it does me good in the algorithm, I think. And if you wanted to subscribe, that would be really nice. I'm still so completely thrown by like my subscriber count, and I don't want to like focus too much on numbers or care, but I am also like, that is so incredibly exciting and wild and just like mind-blowing to me. So thank you to everyone that has subscribed, and please do if you haven't. I haven't done like my proper outro in so long, it feels really weird to be doing it now. But yeah, so I also have an Instagram and a TikTok where I post quite regularly on TikTok usually. I have also taken a break there while I've taken a break on YouTube, but I am coming back. I don't post so often over on TikTok, I won't lie. And I do also have a Patreon and a Ko-fi if you want to help me out financially. There's never any pressure. And I also don't like the idea of any of my content being like behind a paywall. So all my Patreons actually get is earlier videos, like it's like a few hours at most, usually earlier than YouTube. And I am also so soon going to sort my little end screen. You'll see it in a minute. I have the end screen where I put all my Patreon people, but I've both had a bunch of new people join, and some of y'all have changed your names, and like I really need to get that fixed and sorted so that it's right. Sorry about that, by the way. But yeah, that's me. I'm gonna go now. Whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.